We like to start every episode with a disclaimer that we are not professionals. Our conversations are solely based on our personal experiences, thoughts, and opinions. Nothing discussed here is meant to be taken as professional mental health or medical advice. If you have questions or need assistance, please seek the help of a licensed professional.
Discussions in this podcast may sometimes revolve around heavy material such as abuse, grooming, religious trauma, etc. Please listen with caution and prioritize your mental health first. Hey guys.
Hi.
Welcome to Trauma Bondage, the podcast where we talk about trauma, kinks, and non-traditional relationships and lifestyles from a queer lens. We're your hosts, Brigitte and Beth.
Hey.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. We're obviously on one today. I don't know what's going on.
I think it's like lack of sleep and stress and everything.
We're manic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a good time for us to be manic because we're covering very serious topics today. But
we'll make it more fun.
We'll make it work.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Today we are going to be discussing physical and psychological safety when it comes to sex and relationships and what those dynamics look like.
Yes.
Yeah.
We want you guys to be safe and have fun and be able to get crazy without causing trauma. So we're going to talk about how to do that. We're going to talk about consent. We're going to talk about safe words. And we're also going to talk about literally just safe sex and like how to have safe sex.
Yep.
So
yeah,
we'll kick it off with consent.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So one, it's a damn shame that people have so much sexual trauma in general because of lack of communication. Mm-hmm. We were talking about this earlier. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be able to feel comfortable enough with that partner, even if it's a one-night stand, but like have that sexual camaraderie, if you will, to be able to say, hey, this is what I like, this is what works, and like, oh, that vibes.
Yep.
My favorite thing with sexual partners when I'm actually talking to them and seeing like what they're into, like I want to know, one, what gives you pleasure, because some of those things that you're into are going to give me pleasure because you're getting pleasure out of it.
Exactly.
And then, oh, wait, that's your kink. That's also my kink. That vibes really well. Like sometimes they just click into each other like little puzzle pieces.
No pun intended. God, we're going to be doing that this entire episode. I can already tell.
But yeah, so what would you say is your leading factor when you're having conversations about consent with new partners?
Like, how do I initiate those conversations?
Yeah.
So this has been an evolution for me because I didn't do a great job of like communicating about sex prior to my first like lesbian relationship, which was 5 years. So I didn't have a lot of practice outside of that relationship too for a very long time. When I was kind of like doing things with men and then like secretly sleeping with women, there was like hardly any communication involved. I was young. I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. I was never like taught anything about consent, literally at all. I was raised in church, so I was taught the opposite, actually. It was like, you will do what you're told. But I started realizing when I started dating, when I got out of my last relationship, that like I kind of approached it in a very like direct way. So like even before sometimes I would meet up with somebody, if like the intention was like purely to like have something physical, I would... Number one, I would send them my BDSM test. I would be like, this is what I'm into.
Okay. So you would go straight to like, I'm into like the kink stuff.
Yes.
And this is what I like.
If the dynamic was kind of like there already, that like we were meeting up to hook up.
Oh, okay.
If I was just going on a date, no, I would not do that. Like that's a little bit much for a date. But like
really big icebreaker.
If we're just fucking, like, yes, I'm going to send you the test and be like, this is what I'm into. Yeah. I literally had a time where I was like, should I just put this on my dating profile? Because like, you know, I knew I was not going to be compatible with somebody who was super vanilla. So I was like, I don't want to waste my time. So I would either do that, or if it was like, I was still feeling it out with somebody, I would wait until we would have like an in-person conversation. And then if anything was going to be like physical at all, I would tell them like, this is like what I like. This is what I don't like. And then I would ask them a lot of questions. Like, what are you into? Like, is there anything that's like off the table for you? Like, we would literally just communicate about it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the people that I did that with that were very closed off and like didn't want to talk about it, I like knew that like they were not comfortable with conversations around consent or around sex.
Or sex, just in general.
And I was like, no, this is not going to work because I need to be able to talk about this stuff with somebody.
I like to talk about it.
I like to talk about it too.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you not want to tell me what you want? Like, you just want me to go into this blind? Like,
one, I can't read your mind.
Exactly.
But like, two, like, do you not want me to make you happy?
I was going to say squirt. But
Squirtle.
That's the word of the day.
Squirt queen. Okay.
Yeah. Do you not want me to like make you come? Do you not want me to make you happy? Do you not want me to make you like have a good time? Like, if we're not having a good time, why are we doing this?
Yes.
So
that's the whole purpose of
right.
it.
And I'm like, I damn sure don't want to waste 2 hours fucking you and like not having a good time. Or if it's lesbian sex, it's like 9 hours. 2 hours.
I was like, what's a quickie?
Yeah. It's 2 hours if it's bad.
No.
So I did that. And then like in a relationship dynamic, it's a little different. So like a relationship dynamic, there's continuous active communication about sex and pleasure and consent and boundaries and all of that.
Because you're also with somebody that you can try new things with.
Exactly.
Which means you have to rehash those conversations every single time you're trying something new. Which is fine.
Yep.
Actually, I prefer that.
Yep.
Because I'm like, if that's not working, we're going to quit it. But we'll get into that. For me, I guess it's been an interesting path. So I, like you, growing up with the whole religion aspect of one, abstinence. So like sex isn't really the conversation, but also like you should submit to your partner, submit to your husband. That whole thing, which
disgusting.
Gives me a major ick. I hate that.
Avoided that by just not having a husband.
Correct. Just don't have a husband, so you don't have to submit. Come on. But that, and then also having a mom who, for me growing up, like, didn't really have the sex conversations, but would have like inappropriate conversations once I got to a certain age.
Okay.
Like, oh, like, show me how you kiss a boy. And weird shit. But also the adverse side of it of like sexual assault is a rite of passage. Like being told that.
Yeah.
Like that's why I wasn't allowed to go on double dates like with another guy and a girl when I was dating guys. I was only allowed to go to the movies with like 2 guys.
What?
Correct. So like getting set up for potential assault situations. Luckily,
so she was basically like saying like, you need to go through this
to be a woman. Right? Right? Which,
Jesus.
Like, getting set up already and then also not having a foundation of, like, what consent is. Luckily, the people that I would go to these movies with were very good people.
Yeah.
So, like, there were moments, but, like, I never really had anything that was deemed deep and dark.
Right.
And I was lucky because I could have easily.
Right.
But, like, for me, I think that background, it was hard at first having the conversations around sex. And for me being a non-gold star, having had relationships with like men, it was the whole like porn industry and just like replicating what I was seeing, like whether there was pleasure or not. And like, they didn't fucking know what they were doing. They're teenagers and I was a teenager and nobody knew what we were doing. So there was like no conversation around consent. So when I got older and I was like, oh, like I'm into things that are a little bit more on the crazy side than like some people. Like I like to get the vibe with somebody first, even if it's like a hookup, get the flirt going, like get the vibe going,
see how they interact
sexual
with you.
Tension in general is a huge thing for me to pick up on. And that's where I start going into the consent conversation. Cause like, it's not something where you're just like, hi, nice to meet you. How do you, like, what's your favorite sex position? No. Like, that's not what we're saying to do in that situation.
No, there has to be like a buildup of some sort to where like there's flirtation, there's back and forth. It's obvious it's
there's
leading
genuine
that way.
Interest.
Yeah.
And I think that also goes with consent is that like, it's not so much about like, oh, well, like their body language told me that. Body language, while that is helpful tool, that's why I'm like, if I'm interested in having sexual relationships, like, or a sexual relation with anybody, I'll tell them point blank, like, I think you're hot. I would fuck the hell out of you. Yeah. Like, are you interested? If so, let's talk about it.
That's the Dom femme in you coming out.
Yeah, there it is. But like, I will just go ahead and pull the bold move and say, hey, like, I'm interested. If you are, let's chat. Yeah. And then we have to chat. Because usually 9.8 times out of 10, they're like, oh, like, let's go down this rabbit hole because I'm already down. Like, and that's great. And then you're on the same page and you've already had the consensual, like, we're going to consent into talking about this.
Yep.
Just having the conversation is scary, like you said, for some people. I talked to a girl once where I would ask her, like, oh, like, what are you into? And she was like, oh, I don't really know. Nobody's ever asked me.
Jesus.
And I was just like, I'm not wearing pearls. I'm wearing a collar, but like I'll clutch the collar.
Clutch your collar, baby.
but like nobody's ever asked me. And she's had multiple sexual partners. And not a single one of them, women too, that had never asked her.
It doesn't surprise me that women aren't asking her because we are shamed when we talk about anything sexual from a society standpoint. We're told like, you just take what you get and like, that's it.
Yeah.
And like, if you don't get off, go use your vibrator.
Yeah. Go take care of it yourself.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Exactly.
In some way, shape, or form. Yeah. So like having those conversations I think is important, but also like gauging it with people. Because some people like it's just like sex is, no, we don't talk about that. We just do it and call it a day. And it's like a shame. Like some people get a lot of shame out of having sex.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
That makes me very sad.
It is really sad because it's something that's supposed to be beautiful, fun. It bonds you to another person. It can be an outlet. I know for me, like very specific kinks or sexual things that I like are the only way I can release specific energies that I need to release. There's a lot of like buildup of like maybe stress or anxiety or whatever. And like my outlet is like kinky.
Yeah.
And so it's like sex can be incredible. It's good for your health if you do it in the right way.
Yeah.
But so many people are just taught that it's like, you know, it's not a good thing. It's shameful. It's something you do in private. You don't talk about it. All of these very like puritanical beliefs that Americans have.
Yeah. And they forget that when the shame part kicks in, you can also have like actual physical and medical like things that are like like actual pain in sex because it causes anxiety and you clench up and it causes issues. So like you have to talk about it.
You have to.
If you're somebody who like feels shame around sex, I think the best way that you can start maybe getting out of that cycle is like finding a safe person to talk to about it, or like finding an anonymous forum if you're afraid of like people knowing it's you, with other people who are talking about it that are also anonymous. That way you're just like practicing getting comfortable with it so that when those conversations do come up, you're ready to talk about it. And a lot of it, how do you even know what you like, especially at the beginning when you like haven't really had a lot of sexual experience with other people. For me, it was the same thing with a bunch of guys, and I actually didn't know what I liked because nothing was being done.
Yeah. I was going to say, because you were sleeping with men.
So for me, it was a lot of self-exploration. Yeah. Before I knew what I could tell people, like, hey, like, and also like building the confidence behind it. Yeah. Is a big thing to be able to talk about it. But
exactly.
But it's such a big thing. Just having the conversation alone.
I feel like communication is literally the key to good sex.
Yes.
It literally is. Like, you can know all the tricks in the book. You can be the best at whatever you think you're the best at and have so much experience, but there is no guarantee that what you think you're good at or what you're doing is going to translate onto somebody else's body or they're going to like that.
Yeah.
So you have to communicate about it beforehand. Like, you can't just walk in being like, I really was like good with my last partner, so I know I'm going to please this one, and not have a conversation.
No.
The key to being good in bed, if you want to know the key to being good in bed, is fucking ask your partner what they like.
Ask your partner what they like. Talk about what you like.
Talk about what you like.
Not just what they like, but what you like, but like do both.
Yeah.
It's not one or the other. Like it takes two to tango.
It literally does. It does. And I feel like so many people get more pleasure while having sex when they see their partner getting pleasure
out of it. Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, yes, it should be a mutually beneficial conversation where you're both sharing what you like. And if you guys are looking for advice on how to even initiate these conversations, like maybe you're in a relationship that you've had for years and like you've never talked about it before, or you're going in with like a new partner, I would say address it and say, kind of to your point, get consent to have the conversation. You could say something like, hey, I want to make sure that like we both are getting the most out of this experience. And I'm actually just really curious to know, like, what do you like? Like, I've been thinking about it. Like, what do you like? I want to make sure I'm doing what you want. And maybe if they don't ask you back, you can just use that as an opening to say, okay, and I actually like XYZ thing. And
you could find something that's maybe similar, like, oh, I like that a lot too.
Exactly. Or positive reinforcement is really good too. So like if your partner is doing something that you really like and you want them to do more of, but you're like a little too embarrassed to be like, hey, I really like
loved it when you did that.
Yeah. You can just, while they're doing it,
you should give
them some extra encouragement. So it's like there's multiple ways that you can initiate those conversations, but I think like it's all about communication in the beginning
100%.
As much as you can. And then like I said, if you're in a long-term relationship where you've never talked about that, you can just say, hey, I've been thinking like,
yeah. And that's just like sex across the board. That can be kinky all the way to vanilla. Like it could be anything.
Any type of sex. It doesn't have to be kinky for you to need to get consent for things.
No. Same with boundaries.
Right.
So like setting boundaries of like, if you do know something that's not for you or you do have trauma around it that you're like, this is a no-go, they will not know that unless you tell them. They cannot read your mind, and you set them up for failure if you do not share that with them. Right. You don't have to share the trauma behind it or what happened or why it's there, but you can say, hey, not really for me. Yeah. I'd prefer if we don't go down that path.
Yeah. And if they don't respect that,
they are not the partner for you.
That is a red flag.
Red flag. Ding, ding, ding.
Red flag. Okay. Boundaries are extremely important in sex, all types of sex, but especially if you're exploring things in the BDSM or kink world, because those are things a lot of times that can be very like triggering or traumatizing if they're not done the right way.
Yes.
And so,
or cause trauma.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to very like carefully talk about that stuff with your partner before you start exploring.
And I know a lot of people are like, well, how do you know if you've never done it? And sometimes it is figuring out in the moment, yes or no. But that's also where you start to get into like, one, we talked about consent of the things that I do like and the things that I don't like. We maybe haven't established all the boundaries yet because I haven't done it yet. So I don't know what surrounds it. Or I do have this one and this one and this one, but you might have 5 new ones that pop up in any kind of scene if you're trying to do scene play or anything like that. And that's when you also get into safe words. Because even if you have no boundaries established, like fully established because you don't quite know, the safe word is what ends it.
Exactly.
And then you have the conversation about, okay, that's not going to work. Let's set a boundary.
Well, it's very rare that you would go into exploring any type of like dynamic that you've never explored before and like every single thing you're trying.
Oh, no way.
Like it's very rare. And a lot of the thing about experimentation is like you're literally experimenting. You don't know if you like it or not. And so we have communication, we have consent, and then kind of the backup, like do not go is safe words. What is it? Do not press go? I don't know.
Pass go.
Do not pass go.
Come on, Monopoly.
There we go. It's been a long fucking time, okay? I've not played Monopoly in like 10 years. Anyways, do not pass go. Safe words. So we should talk a little bit about what a safe word even is for those who are just hearing that term.
So in BDSM, but can be used for anything, really any sex, just depending on who you are and what your boundaries and sensitivities are. So in BDSM, safe word is a code word or a series of code words. So it can be more than one, or some other signal, physical, anything like that, used by a person to communicate their physical or emotional state. Typically when approaching or crossing a physical, emotional, or moral boundary.
Right.
So we've talked about ours in previous episodes. If you have not heard it, go back, listen. Hers is normal. Mine's stupid, but it works. Okay. But it works. And there's a series of different things that you can do. So for me, it's like I have a singular safe word because I will verbally let you know if I want you to slow something down or speed it up or more of that or less of that.
Right.
Like I can do most of that unless I'm in a scenario where I don't have the control in that way, then it's a different thing. But like I have like platypus. For me specifically, it is funny. It gets me out of the bad headspace. It is a very clear word that I never use in my day-to-day.
Right.
That they'll know if I say it. Like, it's not going to be something that, like, I could have muttered and it maybe
I was going to say, it also
else.
doesn't sound like something else.
It doesn't sound like anything else.
That's fair.
It doesn't sound like more, please.
Yeah.
Platyfucking-puss. Like, it's like, no.
Platypussy.
Platypussy. Like, whatever. But, like, that works for me and it's quick. Some people like to use the stoplight method. So, like, green is, like, good. This is fine. Keep going. Like, this is good, especially if you're trying something new that maybe they don't know how you're feeling. They can't gauge your body language because you're having a visceral reaction to something new. Green is an easy one. Yellow, like, maybe less of that or, like, slow it down. Like, you're going a little too hard or too much. And then red is the safe word for stop. Right. Stop. Like, full-blown stop.
Yeah.
Some people do that, like, with yours with black.
Yeah.
So they'll have
mine is
colors.
black just because it's fast. And like we talked about this in a previous episode, like sometimes when you're in like a really intense, like emotionally or physically like heightened state, your brain does not like work the same way as it normally does. You not might be able to recall
at all.
Yeah. So it's like some people have hand signals. Some people have like a gesture or like a squeeze or whatever. Like whatever works best for you. If you've never used a safe word, you can play around with different things. But a very important part of safe words is to fucking communicate them to your partner. You can't just yell platypus during sex.
In advance. Yes.
Imagine.
And then be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Talk about them prior. And I think you said this earlier, but just to reiterate, these are not just for like BDSM, kinky sexual experiences. You can also use safe words. Like you should have one even if you're a very vanilla person.
Yes.
Because you might be in a place where like you got into a sexual situation with somebody and then you want to stop because you're just not feeling it anymore or you are not in the right headspace or whatever. Yeah. Having a safe word established is a really good way to like not hurt anybody's feelings and also not continue something you're not comfortable with.
See, it's also, I like that you said that because like no should be enough in those scenarios in a vanilla setting and it should be enough, but having the conversation ahead of time about the safe word, even in a vanilla setting, gives you an idea if that person is going to be respectful enough to actually adhere to it. If they're willing to have a conversation about a safe word, if they're like, oh, we don't need a safe word, baby, we're good. Do not even open the door.
Another red flag.
Like, another red flag. Yeah. It's one of those things where like it automatically puts you like we're on the same level. We're both we're in agreement. We've made this safe word. I know that people still ask. Like I've been asked before. They're like, well, what if you've had the conversation and you have established a safe word, and in the moment they do not adhere to it. What do you do in that scenario?
I mean, I would leave.
Yeah.
If you're physically like obviously capable of it. That's kind of where things get sketchy is like if you're restrained or whatever. That's why you really shouldn't let somebody tie you up unless you really fucking trust them.
Unless you know them.
Unless you know them and you trust them.
Yeah. If it's like maybe a one-night stand with a complete rando, maybe avoid that one for the first time around. But that's the thing. Is that like I like having the conversation ahead of time because it lets you kind of suss out who knows what they're doing and talking about and who doesn't. And like if more conversation and more communication needs to be had prior to the deed. Yes. So highly recommend it. It's a helpful tool.
I also will say, and this is maybe just a personal preference, I use my safe word outside of sexual situations too. I don't know if you do this.
No.
But like, so my partner, sometimes they like will like tickle me a lot or like do just random things that are like, they like to tease me.
Yeah.
And like I'll be laughing like extremely hard and like it gets to a point where like if I can't breathe anymore or like I'm like okay I'm done with this, like I'll literally whip out my safe word and I'm like black stop. Well,
actually that's great. I think that's a really smart way to do it. Infuse it in your day-to-day with your partner. Like so that they are like fully in tune that anytime it comes up it's like it's a hard no.
Or like honestly if you're like having a conversation and you need to like take a break, you can literally use it in those scenarios. It really is one of those things where it's like use it how it works best for you, but it was the intended purpose was mainly to keep you safe in sexual situations.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes with boundaries and consent in BDSM world. There is a lot of people will use contracts.
Oh yeah, that's very common.
Ever had a contract?
I've never had a contract before, but I will probably have one in the near future.
I've had 3.
Jesus. Tell me about that. How did that
and
even
those were just the ones who actually wanted a formal like contract written in writing, signed, everything like that. And it's 50 Shades of Grey is not a good example.
It's just not good at all.
It's not. It's Twilight fanfic. Come on, people. Like,
no.
It's not a good example of a BDSM relationship. But what I do like that they had in those movies and the books is that they sit down and have a conversation ahead of time about their contract. It's all fucking weird. The way that they do it is wrong.
Yeah.
Ignore all of that nonsense. Okay. But it's a conversation. It's a communication. It always comes down to that. And it's a communication where like you're talking about sexual things. You're probably going to be sexually charged, but like it's a business meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It is not a fun time.
Yeah.
Like it's not happy fun time. It's a business meeting and you're going to act as such in those, at least to me. And that's how it should be.
It should be taken very seriously.
Like it shouldn't be a moment of like, oh, I'm going to try to get you like to do some of these things, like and try them out just because you haven't like, there are some things that I know like are absolute hard limits for myself.
Right.
And that's what the conversation is about is like, here are all the things that I am interested in doing with you. You can actually get BDSM like Dom Sub dynamic contracts online for free. There are templates for them. You can find them and then like you can infuse some of the things that maybe aren't in there that are for you. But for the most part, they're covered. Like it's like the standard stuff like nipple clamps and whatever.
Yeah.
Like whatever in there is in there. Anal
I was going to say,
beads,
are sex menus typically infused into the contracts?
What is it?
Like a sex menu. Have you ever heard of that? Like where it's like you literally, there's like all of the different things you could explore and then you check off the ones
that's what it is.
Okay.
I've never heard of it called a sex menu, or maybe I'm just out of the loop. Is that's what the contract is.
Yeah.
Is that it is a list of various things.
Yeah.
And you can say like you have like the yes versus no. And then on the yeses, you have soft limits and hard limits of like what is okay and what's not. Because somebody could come at you with like anal as a whole thing and you may not be really into butt plugs or like the vibrators, but you like anal beads used. So like those are the differences between like soft limits, hard limits, and like yes and no, and then like how much of something. Like I like nipple clamps, but I don't want it to the point where it's gonna like literally chop off my fucking nipple. And that's for me is because like I can't fucking feel shit, and that's why I get them pierced.
Yeah.
And when you have a piercing,
you can
feel
more.
Well, but then the clamps, there's like the issue of safety, so that they don't get ripped out. Because while I love pain, I don't want that.
No, we don't want to lose organs or body parts. That's not the goal here.
So, but that's it. That's the communication around it and the contract around that of what they can do to you. And vice versa. I've also had contracts when it came to punishments and punishments and when those were being utilized.
I think that's really important.
Yes, because there's a big difference between a punishment and punishment. A punishment is actually something that you are still getting pleasure and enjoyment out of, but like it's still...
Like maybe being spanked as an example. Somebody told us a story the other day about how they had to like paint a house outside for like in the rain for like hours. Because they were being punished.
Oh, see, my once for me is that like humiliation growing up for me. I hated having my nose, like having to put my nose in the corner. And I've had like a dom use that as my punishment.
Oh my God.
I, as an adult, like in public, if I was being a fucking brat, would have to go stand in the corner and put my nose in the corner. And I hated it. And but it works.
Yeah.
And that's a punishment. Like that's not a punishment for me. I feel like an idiot standing in the corner in this fucking supermarket.
Did your doms ever have hard limits and soft limits too?
Absolutely.
About like what you could, like how bratty you could be or like what you could do to them or...
Yes.
Because I'm more familiar obviously with like the sub side.
Yes. So at least in my experience, some of it has been more around like the emotional stuff because like when I brat, like don't touch certain subjects because they can be like more sensitive to it. Doms also get to have consent and boundaries and hard
just
limits and soft limits.
Yeah.
I love a good stone top. And a lot of people are like, what the hell is that? And it's somebody who doesn't want their genitalia or even sometimes their chest touched. Like they don't want to be sexually touched in any way. They get gratification out of pleasing you.
Just off of pleasing you. Yeah.
And that can also be like, they may not even want the back of their head like they might not want your hands in their hair. That's why a lot of them will tie you up so that you have no access to their body. So like having those conversations and having those in place too, so you have a full understanding of it. And that's part of the contract. So yeah, I've had some like soft and hard limits when it comes to how much of a brat I can be, what topics I'm allowed to brat about or like maybe not allowed to brat about because there's usually fewer that you're not allowed to than you are. And then also having, again, even safe words for them as a dom in place when maybe I'm crossing a boundary. And that's usually when like the red, yellow, green has been placed in. And I love it. Like when a dom is like, oh, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Cause
like you know what's coming.
That's the green. Yeah. Like that's a safe word for me. Green is equated to keep going.
Yeah.
But it's also you're about to get to punishment or punishment land depending on which.
Oh, I love a good threat. There's like nothing like being a brat and then being threatened by your dom. It's so great. The last time I like was threatened like that, I decided to take it one step too far. I think I've told you this before, and I spit in their face. And it did not.
Yes.
It did not end well. It did not end well for me. No. I've only done it one more time since then.
Yeah. So I like contracts personally.
I think they're a really good idea. And I think I've only ever heard of them. I mean, I've heard of contracts, but I've heard of them like the term used, like sex men used to. But I think it's the same thing.
It is.
Where it's basically just like you're going into a formal conversation about what you want, what you don't want, what is off the table, like you're literally setting boundaries.
Yes,
because
that's all it is.
Relationships are basically like a business relationship on some level.
In a way.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what I like about them is that I like having the like formal like piece of paper where it's written down because then you can go back to it and like refresh. And I've had them where like I had a dom for 3-year period and it was a casual thing. Like I wasn't in a full relationship with them. I just was their sub. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of it for me is that like I don't like it to be like 24/7. Like I'm somebody who I'm very independent. I'm good on my own, but like I like the tracking. Mm-hmm. So like a big part of their dom thing for me was like tracking my water intake and my food intake. I was also trying to get myself out of an eating disorder. So like having the food tracking of like, have you eaten today? Because I would forget or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Like that would be helpful. They even went so far as to like cover nutritional info on stuff because that's all I would focus on was the nutritional info, whether or not it was healthy as opposed to actually putting sustenance in my body. Like they would actually come to my place and cover all of it and like check in with me, stuff like that. So that would be an aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And then every year we would have an annual business meeting where we would review the contract and see if any changes needed to be made, if there were any new hard limits, or if maybe something had changed, or like maybe I had found a coping mechanism and now this was actually something that helped me regain control of something else. So yeah, I really like them. I highly encourage them, especially in dom-sub dynamics.
I feel like they like definitely make sense for anything that's like non-vanilla.
Yes.
Like it really is something where it's like, take all the guesswork out of it. Don't play games. Like just fucking put it out all on the table so that like you can focus on like the actual enjoyment versus like the wondering.
Yes.
Like, is this good? Is this bad? Like, do they like this? Do they not like this? Am I going to cross a line? Whatever. Like, it's
especially when you're someone like me and probably like you who likes it to a very specific intensity, like degree of intensity or extreme.
Yeah.
Having that in place is helpful when you're like, some people will not even bring up CNC because some people are not into CNC and that's a different conversation for another day. But like, I specifically say,
I like this.
I like this, but like that doesn't mean I have to have it.
Right.
If they don't, like not everybody's into that, and that's fine. But I like to go ahead and put it in the contract ahead of time so that it's all there so we don't have to have a conversation about it later. And that way I'm not pushing any boundaries or pressing my luck and they're not doing anything that's outside of what we've already discussed. Yeah. So it's a safety measure. It's safety for both parties.
For both parties, yeah.
And to make it more fun. Like people are like, oh, that sounds so like, I'm like, no, it's actually, one, is really fun because then you're having the whole conversation about everything that they've ever liked. Right. And everything that you can do. Like my gears get turning. I'm like, ooh, like I can do this. I can do this. I can do that. Like if somebody doesn't like something, I don't care. I'm not going to hold it against them. That's not a deal breaker for me because I'm certain there's 7 other things that I do. Right. Like it doesn't matter. Like you're not going to get everything out of one person. No. And we said that earlier. Yeah. But I love contracts. Yeah. When it comes to all of that and adding in a level of safety. It's about trust. Yeah. It's not just communication is number 1 to me, but it's also about trusting someone with that information and knowing that they're going to follow through with it. And if they're willing to sit down and have the conversation and say, here, also mine. Right. You're probably in pretty good company.
I was going to say it's a good litmus test for you going into a dynamic with anybody, whether it's going to be casual, serious, whatever, of like how seriously are they taking your pleasure, your boundaries, like respecting you as a human being, and how educated are they? Because even if they're not educated, that's okay. Like maybe you're somebody who's willing to get somebody else up to speed on this stuff, or maybe not. But I feel like it's about knowing where they're at too. Yes. Because like if you are really into this world, or like you have a lot of experience in this stuff and this other person doesn't, you need to know that going in.
It's tough. I've had a couple of former relationships / like dom sub dynamic things where like my dom, they said that they were a dom, that they had been a dom in other relationships, but like we're never really into contracts. That's fine. Like you don't always have to be. I prefer them. But I usually prefer them with somebody who knows what they're doing. Cause like I don't want to run the meeting. Like I'm a sub. I don't want to do I don't want to be the leader.
I was gonna say it's hard when you're a sub to go into it.
Run it, but like I can. Yeah. But it's one of those things. But like I've had a couple where shame on me for like being like, oh, that's okay. Because like it wasn't a full-time like gig with them, and it wasn't like a formalized setting or anything like that. But it just didn't work out to like, they would say certain things where like, they're like, oh, you're mine. And I'm like, we didn't discuss whether or not you can call me that. Which is where you get into like honorifics, which we'll touch in a second. I was like, I'm not yours. And they're like, oh, well, I just feel like I know you so well that like you're mine. And I'm like, I'm not yours. Like I do not belong to you. Right. We have not established that. We do not have that communication. That's the thing for me, is that like we have to have that conversation. Right. You have to earn that, right? For me, because both sides have power. Right. Right. Despite the dynamic, they both have power. That's one of those things. It's like, you have not earned the right to call me yours. And this was somebody that I didn't know that well. Like I'd known them for years, but like I didn't know them, and they did not know me. They don't know my favorite color. They don't know the things from my childhood trauma that cause certain things. They don't know me and who I am and all the things that make me me. Right. So I'm kind of like, you don't get to say that you know me and that I'm yours when you haven't earned that, both in safety and sex safety and stuff like that, but also from an emotional standpoint. Yeah. And that's what works for me.
Well, it sounds like they weren't educated on that, like saying those types of things, because it's like, I feel like that's a thing that like people just say to each other, like in very like societally normal relationships. It's like, there's like this monogamous idea of like ownership, like, oh, okay, if I'm with you, and like sure, you're mine, whatever.
Sure. Like whatever, that's fine. But like, in the dynamic that we had already established as a dynamic, and they were saying like, I am a dom and I have been with other people. Right. No, I was like, well, clearly you're not doing it right. Like that irks me. Like you didn't have the conversation with me about it. And and of course I'm going to communicate that. And they tried to backtrack and all of that stuff and get out of it. But I was like, no, like, and that's for me, that was red flag. And I ended it. Like, I was like, nope, if you can't even have a basic conversation with me about the ownership aspect, we have a problem. Right. So that was like a weird one.
Talk about honorifics while we're on this topic, because I think this is a term probably not a lot of people that are outside of this world are familiar with. So.
No. And the thing is, like, honorifics can be in a normal, like, vanilla
mommy, daddy,
mommy, daddy, ma'am, sir, like master, like some, like there are vanilla people that like the honorifics. Like it has nothing to do with the beatings. It has to do with what you like to be called in bed. Do you want to explain what an honorific is?
I'll do my best, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll do my best too.
Okay. So my understanding of it is basically just like what you prefer to be called. And like, it can be literally any of the examples that we just said. Yes. Mommy, daddy, ma'am, sir, whatever. But usually those terms are your own terms that you give consent for certain specific people to call you based on your dynamic with them. Yes. So like a lot of people in the BDSM world, like Dom specifically, for example, will say like, you cannot call me daddy or you cannot call me sir unless you're my sub. Yeah. And we have that dynamic already established.
And we've had the conversation. Exactly. And I have anointed you with the
I have given you the privilege of like, think about honor. Like that's literally what it is. It's like you have the honor and privilege of being able to call me this. Exactly. And if I do not tell you can call me this, then like do not call me this.
Beautifully done.
Did I do a good job?
That was great.
Tell me.
Good girl.
Thank you.
But see, we've already established that is something I can say to you.
Tell me. Like, she had consent.
Tell me. And that is something in our friendship that like we've established that that's fine with us. And like certain honorifics, like we call each other like nonsense, like nicknames and stuff like that.
I don't even fucking want to squirt queen.
It's squirt queen. But like we're fine with it. And we've had those conversations even as friends. Yeah. Like we have no dynamic
Yeah,
there.
no.
But Ethan and his friends like are like, oh, what do you like to be called?
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. And you said that like with your partner, you guys have certain things that you call each other.
Yeah.
It's so funny because for the longest time, like I was vehemently against calling someone daddy.
Yeah. You had a daddy vendetta.
Which like I have daddy issues. I have a great relationship with my father.
Yeah.
I don't know why I have them, but I do. I have a lot of abandonment issues. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Maybe
Thanks,
it's not
Dad.
specific to daddy.
No, that is specific to daddy.
Oh.
Not his
Daddy
fault.
fucked up.
Yeah, it's not his fault. It was more like a mommy problem, but like daddy was the one.
Daddy was running away from mommy.
Yes, correct.
Causing Bridget trauma.
But like I didn't like it, and like because I had this friend that was like, oh yeah, like I really like to be called daddy and I like to call her mommy. Right? Which like the mommy thing icks me out, but that's because I have like a visceral reaction to my own mother and I don't want to deal with it. Okay. I'm like, please don't call me mommy. Like nobody will ever be special enough to call me mommy because I think it's gross and it will turn me off. Yeah. That's not for me. Yeah. Which is why like I've had a partner. I've only had one partner that's ever called me Angel. And nobody else gets to call me Angel because that was theirs.
Oh, cute.
Right? Princess is one of them. I have certain nicknames with certain people that are even platonically like friends, but like it basically owns like they own that nickname to me, like even in a friendship setting. But when it comes to like dom sub, like so my previous relationship, daddy was the one, and it was new for both of us. But like we had the conversation. But it was also funny because in my phone, my father pops up as daddy on my phone. I'm not weird. I'm not like, daddy, I love you. Da, da, da. Like, I'm not like a daddy's girl in that way. Yeah. We just have this funny thing where I go, hello, daddy. And he goes, hello, Brigitte. And that's it. That's it. Like, that's the end. But like, it would pop up and they'd be like, what the fuck? And I'm like, it's not, it's like my literal father. It's my literal father. Calm down. But like, that's also something is like, pet names in the phone. What do you have in there? Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah. And it's an honorific. Yeah. So
my partner has me in their phone as Beth, my little demon baby. Nobody else can call me that because I'm their demon.
I love that.
That's literally what they call me.
That's so cute.
Yeah, it's cute. It's adorable. I call them daddy. They call me demon.
Yeah.
Should we talk about safe sex?
Yeah, let's dive into it.
Okay.
So we've done all of the, we've had the conversation. We have established our guidelines, especially if we're getting into the kink world or trying out new things.
We're actually
about to be in the throes of it. In the throes.
What do you do?
What do you do? Like when it comes to safe sex, Texas.
God.
Being in Texas.
You could leave it
You
there.
grew up in Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, but it's the fucking
It's worse.
same.
It's worse.
It's worse. It's worse.
So, because I went to college in Oklahoma, so I get it. Oklahoma, Texas, the South in general. We've talked about this before. The health system, education in general is absolute garbage. Yeah. Okay. Like you don't even have just like a sex ed class. You have sex ed that is a part of health class. So you go from like looking at pictures of STDs to the fucking food pyramid. So
and that's, let me just say, that's a privilege because that is specifically for kids who went to public school.
Yes.
If you are like me and homeschooled and also went to a private Christian school,
nope.
Literally nothing. You're lucky if you went to a fucking science class. Yeah. I went to like True Love Waits, which I think we've talked about. That was literally it. So the only sex education that I literally had at all and
was through the church.
Most of my friends were through the church and it was just abstinence. Ooh. So like didn't know what a condom was until I was like maybe 16 or 17.
Yeah. Even in public school, because like you would see TV shows growing up where they like, oh, we have this person coming in health today. And of course all the kids would be like, oh my God. And it's the banana. Banana. Wow. It's a banana and they put like the condom on the banana.
Right.
And they show you how to use a condom.
Did they actually do that in school?
No, they never did it in my school.
Oh, okay.
There are some schools that have done that though. So it is a thing. It just depends on like funding and where you are. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to get sex education in the United States of America.
That's fucking sad.
And it's just dismal.
Right.
Okay.
And then they wonder why like the rates of teen pregnancy is just so high. And
don't even get me started.
Yeah, we'll have a whole other episode about that. But
so being in the South, you don't really have that. So you kind of have to do your own. And for me, my parents never had the sex talk with me ever.
No, definitely
we had
not. Some
like medical books. So I kind of learned about anatomy, but like we never had the sex talk. I learned about sex through porn and doing it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I learned about sex through dirty books. Yeah. And doing it.
Yeah. Which is terrible. It's a terrible way. But if you're a parent that's actually sitting down with your kids and having a good conversation about how it fucking works, because it's It's a system.
And how to do it safely.
Yeah. Kudos. You win all of the fucking gold stickers. Good girls.
Good girls.
Good boys. Good bunnies. I love you. But
honestly, the parents are the ones we should be praising right now.
Yeah,
because
that's what I'm doing.
okay.
I'm praising the parents.
Okay.
Yes. I love you all.
We love you.
You're good parents. Keep doing that. But safe sex in general, because there's multiple ways to do it in both heterosexual relationships, in homosexual relationships, and in non-monogamous relationships.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of go down the line. So I guess...
I mean, heterosexual relationships, I think most people know. Like condoms, birth control,
diaphragms, IUDs.
Yeah. Spermicide.
Yeah. I mean, even to getting your tubes tied or like sterilization in some form.
Or if you fuck up, plan B the next day is always an option.
Yeah.
Or
if it is an option.
If it's an option.
The problem is that we're starting to see that it's, we're seeing pregnancy rates and mortality rates go up through the roof because of shit that's going on. Those are like the standard ways that you do it. Pull-out method does not work, boys. If you are listening,
don't. You can
like go for it, but like have a plan.
Right. You can pull out if you have something else as like the main way of keeping the sex safe.
Yeah.
Like birth control and condoms also can obviously help prevent STIs as well.
They can.
They're
However,
not foolproof.
They can break. Yeah, they're not foolproof. Birth control is not foolproof.
No.
I'm sorry. It's just not. One, like all it takes is one missed fucking pill to really jack everything up. But two, there are people who are on it religiously that still get pregnant.
Yeah.
So you have to find methods that work for you. But like also check with your partner. That's a big thing about the communication is that there are some women who have latex allergies. I
was going to say
have the conversation about, are you on contraception? That was something that like I had a conversation with just about everyone from the swingers on about safe sex and stuff like that. I didn't use any kind of protection when I was younger. It is a miracle that I came out with no pregnancy scares, no STI scares, like nothing of the sort, like no medical anything bad. Yeah. Absolute like miracle.
A lot of things that didn't happen to you are miracles.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a miracle lucky, child. I guess. I don't know. Don't do what I did.
Well, I also feel like we should talk about like testing in general too, like getting tested, because especially if you're sexually active, like number one, go to the gynecologist first of all if you're a woman.
Women's health once a year at least
minimally, but also you should get regularly tested if you are sexually active.
Yes.
Like period. You should get regularly tested.
Partnered or sexually active in general. Yes. Yeah. So I guess with women's health, you're supposed to go to an OB when you have started being sexually active or when you turn 21. I did not know that until I was like 24, and my sister was like, hey, when are you supposed to go? And I was like, I've never been. She was like, are you shitting me? Like, what the hell, mom?
You should go.
Okay. So when you're sexually active or when you turn 21, you should start going annually. Have an annual visit. Most insurance covers it. A women's health exam. They're also not too terribly expensive without insurance. Also checking yourself. Yeah. So like not just like your boobs and doing that like your own version of a mammogram, but also like checking your genitalia, get a fucking mirror and look at it and make sure nothing looks weird outside of like normal weirdness of anatomy. But like that you're not seeing any warts or any rashes or anything like that. And if you do, you make an appointment.
Also,
don't go to the Google.
Quick side note. Yeah. This is something I didn't know. And it's probably just because I didn't sleep with men growing up. But like, you should pee after sex. Yes. Pee after sex to avoid UTIs. Yeah. I know so many women that don't know this. And like, I think people think it's like a common knowledge thing. But like, I don't think it is. UTIs are obviously curable, but they fucking suck.
Well, how does one get a UTI, Bethany?
I mean, it's literally just bacteria going up into your urethra.
Why is urine so important? It's sterile.
It's sterile.
It's sterile. Yeah. So pee after sex.
Pee after sex. You're going to prevent yourself
even sex
a lot
with
of pain.
women, I pee after sex.
Oh, for sure.
If toys are involved, I'm peeing after sex.
I've gotten a UTI from somebody just going down on me before and not peeing after. It's literally just about, also it can just be about body chemistry too. Like your body can take time getting used to somebody else's saliva.
I guess that's a good point.
They're like, if they have their own bodily fluids that are getting on you, like it literally is just like, you don't know how your body's going to react. No. So like clean yourself after pee, be hygienic when it comes to
hygiene.
Sex.
We'll get into hygiene.
Yeah.
But that's for like heterosexual couples. You've got queer couples. So like that's going to vary based on your sexuality. Right. So like for men, especially, I'm always like get on PrEP. I've had so many male friends that are gay men that like were going to all the pool parties and being wild and stuff like that. And I was
they
like,
have orgies.
and I was like, I do not care what you do or who you do or how many people you do at any given time, as long as you're being safe about it. Because the last thing I want is for you to contract something that ruins your life.
Yeah.
There are some things that are curable. There's some things that are not. So like PrEP is a big one for me. I'm always going to say, go talk to your doctor, make sure that's the right choice for you. But like PrEP is great. I have so many friends on it and they're like, I feel great about it and I feel safe.
Yeah.
For women, it's interesting. It's an interesting one when it comes to queer, like lesbians. Yeah. Lesbians specifically.
It is interesting. It's not talked about a lot because, I mean, women's health in general is just completely shit on and ignored in the medical community.
The shade.
But also the rates of STI transmission between women who are only sleeping with women are lower.
Far lower.
Far lower.
Yes.
So like we just do not do like we don't have something that has bodily fluids in it that we're sticking into multiple holes all the time. To put it crudely.
Correct.
So there's less of a chance, but it's still important. It's still very important.
So I always say like for testing in general, for anybody, I believe in like every 6 months. If you're somebody who's sexually active, at least.
Absolutely.
At least every 6 months. If you're somebody who has like multiple partners, more often, which I'm going to talk about that here in a second. But like for women, like outside of the general ones, like dental dams are something for like lesbian relationships, which some people use them religiously.
Yeah.
I have used one once. It was not for me, but if somebody asked me to use one, I would.
Yeah. If somebody's asking you, then yes, absolutely. I would preferably get a STI test prior to sleeping with somebody.
Yes.
Than using one.
But I prefer to be tested ahead of time in that. And that's what gets me into like the whole fluid bonding thing when you have multiple partners. So like if you're non-monogamous or if you're just somebody who's having casual sex, you're not partnered up, you're just on the apps and
you're
having
swinging
a
it
grand old
around.
time. You're getting free pizza and free pussy and calling it a day.
Love it.
God, that sounds great.
It really does. Can we order pizza after this?
Yeah, and pussy.
Perfect.
Fluid bonding.
Yes.
Fluid bonding, to explain that to anybody who doesn't know what that term is, because I didn't know it until like a year or two ago. When you have like multiple partners and you're not using protection in any way, shape, or form, which like even if you are, things happen.
Right.
I consider anybody who's having sex with anybody fluid bonded, period. So if you have more than one partner, usually having something in place and it's boundary and consent and talking about that, especially in non-monogamous relationships when you have multiple actual partners, not just sexual partners, but requesting regular STI testing.
Yep.
That is something I've had with dom-sub relationships where even if I was the only sub, people can cheat.
Yeah, they do.
People can still cheat.
Yeah.
And they do cheat and sometimes will cheat.
Yeah.
And then you're getting whatever gunk they're getting out of gunk out of somebody else. Like
it's not worth the risk.
It's not worth the risk. Just get the test.
Yeah.
It's easy. There are a lot of places that do it for free.
Like there's I know that
times.
Specifically if you live in Dallas, there's free HIV and STD testing
the
in
LGBT
the Gayborhood
Resource Center and in the Gayborhood as well.
Yeah.
Yes. They're great. They're wonderful. So yeah, get tested regularly, often.
Absolutely.
If you are having sex in general, I highly recommend it. And the thing is, if you get tested and your results come back with something and they're positive, one, it's okay. I'm sorry. It's common. My own doctor, she was like, oh, like be careful if you have multiple partners, like STIs are at an all-time high. And I was like, oh shit, like that's great to know, but they're at an all-time high. My doctor told me that.
Right.
Like,
it's not something that you need. I think it's another taboo thing, but it's not something that you need to be ashamed of.
It's just, it's chemical. It's, you can catch a cold as easily as you can catch herpes. Like,
yeah, I was going to say,
like,
we're literally all out here fucking. Some of us are just unlucky.
Some are unlucky and some, I've never had an issue. Like I've just gotten really fortunate.
Same.
But like if you do have something that comes back, you do need to tell all of your partners.
Yeah.
And I know that's one of those things where you're like,
and
oh my
wait
God,
until it's cleared up until you start.
This is awful and I don't want to do it. It's like the same thing as like you get lice and you have to tell somebody that you slept in the same bed with that you have lice and now that they need to check their hair. Like it's embarrassing and you feel weird, but like do it because one, there are some things that left unchecked and left untreated can actually kill you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like
not to raise an alarm,
but like tell your partners like, hey, I got this. You might want to go get checked as well.
I had somebody
and let them make the choice.
I had somebody recently that, and not naming any names, I might have told you about this. I literally had slept with them for like 3 months, like, you know, last year.
Yeah.
And they told me after the fact that they forgot that they had herpes.
How do you forget that?
Since they were 15.
How do you forget that?
And I reacted calmly because that's my personality.
Yeah.
It actually is. Shocker. But
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I only was calm because I knew I had been tested since then and I had
and you're fine.
I'm clean.
You're clear.
I'm clean.
Yeah.
But that was very jarring and fucking not cool and like very much like made me not respect that person because I was like, why did you like
But that's a great point.
actively
if you do
not
have
tell me
something actively, because there are some things like you just have forever.
Yeah.
Herpes is like glitter. You can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing like that. Like be transparent
Right.
with your partner about
Tell
what you
them.
have. I know you may just be like, oh my God, they're so great. And I really just want to do them. But like they get to have a choice.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
have to give the other person a choice.
Right.
And that's part of consent.
And there are ways to have safe sex with somebody that has an STI.
Absolutely.
So it's like talking about that doesn't mean that they're not going to like be open to like being physical with you in some way.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
have several
like,
friends who have sex partners that
Yeah.
have things that like they can't do everything, but they find a way to make it work.
right. Exactly.
And where they're both getting gratification.
Right.
So
I think the whole theme of everything that we're talking about is like honesty and communication. I feel
Yeah.
like literally that's like
100%.
if you have those two things down, then like you're gonna be fine.
Be honest, be communicative, and also
open.
be trustworthy enough to like adhere to all those things.
Be responsible.
Yeah. Be reliable, be responsible.
fucking responsible.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that simple. It
Yeah.
really is a simple task. I just don't know why people are so freaked out by it.
There's
all.
just a lack of general education and communication about how to talk about this stuff and when to talk about it. And so that's why we wanted to do this episode, obviously, because we'll say fucking anything.
Yeah. Do it from the start. From the start.
Yeah.
Have the conversation
Yeah.
about it all.
Yeah.
About all of it. Okay, so like with UTIs, because we were talking about that,
Yeah.
it's like bacterial and stuff like that. Also coming from like peeing after,
Yeah.
and you mentioned hygiene.
Yeah.
So
Very important.
going into that,
Mhm.
like what is something that like you're very specific about or particular about? Like I am OCD when it comes to my own personal hygiene
Same.
and even how I shower and like
Same.
every step. Some people are like, oh, I just rub the soap all over my body and call it a day. And I'm like, no,
no,
like
no.
please.
No.
I have taught more people, more partners.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, more women than I'd like to admit.
How to fucking
How
wash
to
themselves.
bathe in general, but also how to clean the downstairs because you're
Oh,
not supposed to
God.
put soap all over that.
Yeah.
It's a self-cleaning fucking organ, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Have your separate coochie rag.
Your
Don't
separate
use soap.
coochie rag.
Okay.
Coming soon to our merch collection. Coochie rags.
The trauma bondage coochie rag. No, absolutely not.
I don't know. It's kind of a good idea.
Hard limit. Hard limit.
That's where we draw the line? Okay. All right. No coochie rags. Sorry to disappoint.
God.
But yeah, so basic things for me are taking a fucking shower, brushing your teeth, making sure that if we're using sex toys, they're not sex toys you're using with somebody else.
New WAP, new strap.
That's the motto.
New WAP, new strap. Thanks. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Also, if you're gonna shove anything in my ass, do not put it in my pussy after.
It only stays in the back door.
You can put it on my pussy and then in my ass. That's fine.
Yeah, that's different.
That's fine. But other way around, no.
It's like beer
Absolutely
before
not.
liquor, like
Never sicker.
liquor before
I get what you're saying.
booty. I don't fucking know.
Liquor before booty.
Like, you know?
Yeah, lick her before
Lick her
booty.
before.
That was actually genius.
Thank you.
I'll be here all night.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
You know
Anyway,
you've done something right when Wolf is giggling in the fucking corner.
we live to make our producer laugh. It's so great.
Yeah, but no, like, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
No.
Mm-mm.
Also, I will say, like, too, hygiene, like, oral hygiene is important if you're going to be going down on somebody, too.
Yes.
Like, if your saliva is going to be on somebody's anything, then you should
brush your teeth.
brush your teeth.
Scrub your fucking tongue. I told you I'm OCD about it.
I have a water pick, literally. Like, that's
I
how
love
crazy I
water
am.
picks.
Yeah.
I love water picks.
Yeah. There's also, like, if you're on the go and you don't have time to take a shower, there's, like, pH balance wipes you can use.
Yeah.
I use this pH balance oil. on my stuff. And it helps with like scent, pH balance, and it's very just like good for like keeping everything like hydrated. Like especially if you are somebody that shaves, like avoiding razor burn, all that.
Somebody's gonna ask this. Does it affect taste?
It is a little bit like lemony, orangey.
So it's got like an actual flavor.
It's got a little bit of a flavor.
Oh, that's cool.
But I like how it tastes. So the brand, I cannot remember where I get it from, but the brand that I buy it from, they have unscented ones too.
Okay.
Completely.
You should show it to me later.
I will. I'll show you. I call it my pussy oil.
It's the pussy juice for the pussy.
It really is. But yeah, hygiene in general.
Hygiene in general is really important. Yeah. Toys, please, for the love of God, do not clean your toys in your dishwasher. Okay? I know that it is like this thing that is recommended online. One, if you rent, you don't know who the fuck was putting what in your dishwasher before you lived there. Right. Okay? True. I have seen, like, I'm sorry, 5 Minute Crafts is unhinged. They had a thing where they were having people wash their toilet seats in the dishwasher. Your dishwasher does not get rid of all the gunk in there. Just FYI, it just all flies right back up on it. So I highly disrecommend. Like, do not clean your toys in the dishwasher.
Hot water, soap. That's all you need.
Soap. There are cleaners that you can get, like actual cleaners. Keep it in like silicone bags or in like a safe, clean space that's not gonna get like dirt and dust and cat fur and litter and all kinds of shit on it. Like, keep it in a nice, clean place. And also, I always prefer somebody to clean it even before using it, even after if they've cleaned it.
Clean it every time.
Just before and after.
1,000%. Yeah.
It's fine.
It's so easy to do. There's also just like it can get dust on it, like whatever. Yeah. So like,
and I know that like new toys are expensive.
Yeah.
Like especially like when we're talking about strap-ons, but like just get a new dildo. Like keep the strap.
Yeah.
Like just get a new dildo. Make it a date. Hey, like, let's go to the store and you can pick out your size and color and what you like based on what you like.
Clean your fucking sex toys.
Please, for the love of God, and clean them well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Spicy trauma.
I'm really, really looking forward to your...
I have a very on-theme spicy trauma story for today.
Oh, goody.
Yeah. Because, like, we're obviously talking about sex education, lack thereof, all of that good stuff. So... I'll just preface this story with I obviously grew up in a small town and there was no sex education there. So like I empathize with this person that I'm going to tell you the story about on some level.
Okay.
I went to a class reunion, my 10-year class reunion. I think this was like a year ago. And I had a very small graduating class. It was like 11 or 11, 12, something like that. It was small.
I'm sorry, that's
fucking tiny. It was a private Christian school in a small town.
12 people?
Yeah.
Mine was over 1,200.
I know. That's why when I tell people I'm valedictorian, I immediately followed up with there were only 12 people in my class.
There were only a dozen. They had to pick one.
But then I redeemed myself by graduating in the top 1% of my college. I was like, okay, I actually am really smart, but like I didn't have a chance to prove it. There was no one here.
Oh my God.
Anyways, so I go to this class reunion. I'm honestly like kind of already like not excited about it because I don't really have anything in common with anybody I graduated from high school with anymore, except for my one best friend who was there. So I'm hanging out with her most of the time. There's a mutual friend that we have. And the other best friend that I was just referring to, she's also a lesbian. So like we show up, we get a lot of questions immediately about like lesbians. And like I got asked, how do lesbians have sex?
Oh, common.
Like it was just they used a couple of slurs while we were there, and like me and my friend were kind of just like, oh my God, like this is why we don't come here. Like we don't even go here. It was just a fluke.
She doesn't even go here.
I don't even go here. And so the night goes on, more wine is had. We're at a restaurant, and then we go to a bar. So at the bar, this one specific girl I graduated with who's been married for like 10 years. She's been with the same guy since she was like maybe like 13 in high school. They have 2 kids. You already know where this is going. She has a lot of questions about how lesbians have sex, okay? So
I'm sure she does.
I'm sure she does. So she does. And she's like, you guys don't like, you don't go down on each other, right? And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, we do.
Absolutely.
And she was like, wait, really? And I was like,
Absolutely. Are you shitting me?
Girl, I am in pussy every night. I don't know what to tell you. Like, And so she was shocked by that. And then I was like,
her husband not go down on her?
So I was like,
Oh, no.
She was like, I didn't know that like people like did that. And I was like, yeah, I was like, that's how most women orgasm, just FYI. Like it's very uncommon to have vaginal orgasms and it takes a long time. Like most people, I said, most women come from their clit being stimulated. And she goes, their what? And I said, their clit being stimulated. And she goes, I don't know what that is. What's a clit? And I literally, my mouth fell open. I look over at my lesbian friend and she goes, wait, do you not know what a clit is? And she was like, am I supposed to?
Can you see me dissociating over here?
Yes.
I'm traumatized. I am
so woman has been married with 2 children.
And she doesn't know what a clit is.
She doesn't know what a clit is.
Oh, baby.
So I literally
Come
was
to the
like,
dark side. We have cookies and hats.
And
backward
clits.
hats. It's like a handle. Come on.
I was like, I am very tempted to lay you up on this table right now and show you what your clit is. But I'm not going to because we're in a small town.
Bummer.
I did not do that. But I just looked at her and I was like, you don't know what your clit is? And she was like, no.
She's never had an orgasm.
She was like, I know I like it when I like am touched like on my vagina. And I was like, that's not your vagina. I was like, what you're feeling is him touching your clit. And she's like, well, I like it when like he puts his mouth on it, but he won't do that. Like I have to beg him to do that. So she was like, she literally said she has like not had an orgasm from sex. I didn't follow up and ask if she's had one in general ever. But I was like, if she doesn't know what her clit is, doubt she's having an orgasm.
I have 2 things to say to this. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States health sex ed system, 1. And 2, men, honestly, anybody.
Get your shit together.
If you don't eat your girl out, we fucking will.
We will, gladly.
And we'll steal them.
In public, in private, wherever they want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways.
It's what is the TikTok that's going around the trend right now? It's like you begged her to kiss you, but she begged me to fuck her. Yeah. We are not the same.
We are not the same.
We are not the same. Oh my God.
It was
poor
really,
woman.
really, really bad.
Oh, I'm distraught.
So then I really didn't know how to react other than my friend told me that my lesbian friend was like, I'm going to get her a sex ed book for her birthday and just like mail it to her. We were basically, we had like a little like session afterwards where we were like, what do we do for her?
You have to go back. You have to check in.
You have to like, yeah. I'm like, is she okay? Yeah, it's not great.
Are straight people okay?
No, definitely not. There's like a select few that are, and then the rest
I already
are
knew
just
the answer to that one, but
dying slowly.
Anyway.
Straight women are really what we need to check in on.
Oh,
because that really like that story sounds like it's not real, but unfortunately it is real.
Oh my God.
Real.
Well, the thing is, I'm not surprised by it because there's so many stories like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is real.
Yeah, it's unfortunately real. I'm like, imagine going through childbirth twice and never getting the benefit of an orgasm.
Bitch, imagine going through life without an orgasm. I don't even care about the childbirth part.
But it's like, it's not
I require them. Regularly.
Orgasms required.
Regularly.
On this couch, orgasms required.
Squirty couch.
It really is.
The squirt queen. Squirt couch. Your squirt throne.
The squirt throne. New merch coming soon. She's on her squirt throne, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, what's your spicy trauma?
Oh my God. All right. Okay. So this one is actually somebody who wrote and told us one.
Yes.
Which, thank you. We like to ask you, we didn't say this earlier. We do end our every episode with spicy trauma. We want you to send yours to us so that we can talk about them.
Long or short, we'll take it.
Mild, crazy, whatever. It can be anonymous. We'll likely just make them all anonymous for your sake. But so this is somebody who wrote in about just physical weirdness. So we had our launch party and we had posted stuff and one of the things is like pasties.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of friends that were like, oh, like what are those? Which I was just like, are you shitting me? Like,
do you live under a rock?
Yeah, like it's the same thing as like nipple covers, like silicone ones for like dresses with like, backless dresses and stuff like that. But like they're stickers.
Yeah.
They're stickers for your titties. And they're like gentle ones so that they're not like, because your boobs are like very soft, sensitive tissue.
Right.
And especially like the areola and the nipple area. So usually I have to educate people on pasties in general, which just like is mind blowing me because like also like EDM, they're a huge thing in EDM and like festivals. They're mainstream with fashion. But like, okay, we'll educate. So these are the good ones. The good ones that you want are pasties that have the cutout around the nipple so that it's not an actual adhesive onto your nipple and you're not like tearing your fucking nipple off. How many times can I say nipple in this episode? Take a shot. Nipple.
We love it. We're here for it.
Buttery nipples are the best.
Oof.
You don't like those?
No. Too much cream. I'm a vegan.
Oh, there was a joke in there. But
I know.
I was upset by it. Okay. But yeah, so I educate people on this. So she writes in and tells me about her experience with a sexual partner that she has. And she was like, I wanted to be really sexy and have this whole outfit and stuff like that, but I didn't have any pasties and I didn't know where you could get them, which like Amazon, y'all, easy.
Amazon everything.
Yeah, any sex store, but like if you're weird about going to sex stores, Amazon.
Yeah.
So she's like, I didn't have anything. So she was like, but I wanted to use something. So I used the next best thing that I had.
I already know where this is going.
What do you think it is?
I mean, I would imagine some sort of tape.
Electrical tape.
Oh, electrical tape. Okay.
Not just duct tape, which like duct tape is painful, but like doable.
Big fucking yikes.
Electrical tape is on another fucking level. Have you ever like used electrical tape?
It's the shit that leaves stickiness on your fingers for days that you can't get off.
Like the black electrical tape or like the red one. Like me being the true lesbian I am that worked in like scene shops and stuff like that and like actually having to like wire things and use electrical tape. That shit doesn't come off.
No.
It's like fucking Gorilla Glue on your skin. Like it's awful. It's awful. Uses on both fucking tits and had to tear them off at the end.
Is she nippleless now?
No, thank God. The nipples have survived them. But I remember I responded, I was like, okay, one, if you ever are trying to do that again, if you are going to use tape, use duct tape.
Right.
And get like a cotton pad to put over your nipple.
Yeah.
First, okay?
Jesus fucking Christ.
But like maybe plan ahead and have some like pasties in your bag all the time if you're really wanting to get crazy.
Also, who has electrical tape laying around and not like regular? There we go. There it is. So basically, moral of the story: both of the spicy traumas were caused by men.
No kidding.
Do it if you want to.
Fine, that's for you. We're not going to do that. No. But also, don't use electrical tape on your nipples.
Don't do that.
You will injure them.
Yeah, you might literally rip them off.
Yeah.
Depending on your nipple strength.
Yeah. Because I've had some like not so good quality your nipples. I'm sorry. All I have is an image of a nipple pulling up fucking little dumbbells.
That's literally what I just thought about. I had the same fucking visual. It's like, oh my God. We are the same human. I can't.
Yeah. Nipple strength. No, like you want to get good quality ones too, because I've had some that like absolutely tore the shit out of mine and they were like meant to be for that purpose. I also, like other people with allergies, I'm allergic to like adhesive in general. Like
I am too.
Even medical grade adhesive. Like I have to request like the special shit for like surgery or whatever. But I always like, so after our party, I had the X's on my nipples and I had like a little outline, like a little red outline of an X around my areola.
That happens to me every time I get a tattoo. The second skin stuff I'm allergic to.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's probably why I get so itchy. That makes sense.
Yeah, now you know. Huh. The more you know. Well,
the more you know. Yeah.
Spicy trauma was spicy.
Yeah.
It was
sad.
It was sad.
Ladies.
Just sad. Ladies, are you okay?
Guys.
Write in if you need help. Blink twice if you need help.
Send us your safe word. The most used ones are like food, like peach and raspberry and stuff like that.
Really?
So like just send us an emoji of a peach and we'll save you. We'll
I love that.
We'll go full blown like Liam Neeson and take in and come get you.
I've always wanted to do that for somebody, to be the rescuer.
Oh.
But I've always wanted to get kidnapped too. That's a whole other episode.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today on Trauma Bondage. We hope you have a wonderfully spicy, traumatic-filled day. We love the fuck out of you guys.
Be good.
Or don't.
We won't.
Sure won't. If you like today's episode, follow us on social media at Trauma Bondage Pod. Follow Beth at Dancing Gemini and at Bethany Nicole, and Brigitte at Your Fave Femme. If voyeurism is your kink, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Trauma Bondage Podcast, and subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/traumabondagepod.
We have several tiers with bonus content, access to our private Discord server, merch, and other titillating perks. If you know, you know. Production by Wolfstar. Special thanks to Details by Annalise for set design, D. Dumpy for music, and Noelle's art for artwork.